Okay, I'm very happy to be here to help NEEP celebrate its 35th anniversary. Yes, you heard that right. It's 2031, and I wanted to take a look back about what has happened in the last 15 years since NEEP gathered in the shadow of Mount Washington for the 20th anniversary. Now, a few of you may have been around then. I did give a talk, and I'm going to contrast some of the things I said then to where we are now in 2031. Okay, now it's always fun to come here to New Hampshire because we're now gearing up for primary season. You know, we have a presidential election next year, and the New Hampshire primary will be January of 2032. It's looking like we're going to have a reprise of the 2016 election. Trump versus Clinton, Ivanka versus Chelsea. Now, fortunately, at least on climate change, they do agree. Ivanka has gone well beyond her father. She's really been a leader in helping New York State adapt to climate change and address climate change. She's governor there, as I think you know. And Senator Clinton has been really a leader in the US Senate. So this will be quite a race, and hopefully it'll be much cleaner than the 2016 one. But now I wanted to talk about, so it's 2032. 2 years ago, I celebrated my 50th year in the energy efficiency field. I'm finally starting to think about retirement. You can see there the two-family home that my wife and I are doing a deep zero energy retrofit on. That'll be our retirement home. Like many of you here in 2032, I'm driving an electric vehicle. I have a Tesla Model 3. I own the 3F. That's a picture of the 3A that got introduced in 2016. But Tesla is now the biggest selling car in the US, as I think many of you know. So where have we come over these last 15 years? The upper slide is one I showed 15 years ago. It was some projections about what New England's electricity demand might be going forward. We had the upper line, which was the official forecast, US Department of Energy, about how New England basically was going to have level electricity use, but then maybe start increasing in the out years. We at ACEEE did two other scenarios, much more aggressive on efficiency, on photovoltaics, but also looking at things like growth in electric vehicles and heat pumps. We did the two scenarios, an aggressive and a very aggressive scenario. Here at 2031, we're roughly in between those, the red and the green lines. We've really reduced the energy use, but it's starting to trend up because the EVs and the heat pumps are really starting to take off. So we are expecting the use to increase, electricity use to increase, but the fossil fuel use is going way down. So we've really made a lot of progress. Now, you may recall back in 2016, there was a lot of talk about duck curves, that as we get more photovoltaics, we'll have less power demand in the middle of the day, but more in the evening when everyone comes home. So there you can see the famous duck curve. That has, in fact, come to pass. On the right, you can see what electricity demand has been. Summer demand continues to go down because we have all this photovoltaics on top of the energy efficiency. Winter demand has been steady and is starting to rise as more and more people switch from fuel oil, propane, even natural gas to heat pumps. So definitely some major changes in the industry. So in looking back over these last 15 years, I wanted to talk a little bit about technologies and practices, programs, and policies. So what are some of the developments in technologies and practices? We've moved much more to a systems focus. On the upper left, you can see all the components of an HVAC system. No, I know you can't see it in back, but we've really concentrated on how the different pieces fit together and how we can optimize them. There's been much more of a focus on controls. We pretty much finished up with efficient lighting, the basic bulbs and fixtures, in the early 2020s. Now it's much more of a focus on controls, on lighting design, things like that, as well as controls throughout commercial buildings and even in our homes. Zero net energy buildings have really taken off. Just a couple of months ago, NEEP came out with a report showing how New England new homes and new buildings were more than 50% zero net energy last year in 2030. So that's a real major accomplishment. We really, while we emphasize systems, we've also done a lot with some of the major pieces of equipment. NEEP's had a major initiative dealing with heat pump water heaters, another one with rooftop air conditioners, both of which help lead to new minimum efficiency standards that the Department of Energy adopted last year. As we made heating and lighting, cooling more efficient, we've had to spend much more time on the miscellaneous energy uses, the TVs, the computers, the ceiling fans. But there have been major initiatives, all of those, they typically use now less than half the energy that they did back in 2016. Building retrofits have been, deep retrofits have been a major focus. You can see there a picture of the Empire State Building, which was one of the first ones. But as of last year, about 20% of our commercial buildings and homes had gone through deep energy retrofits. We have a lot more, but I think we've made a lot of progress. And then, as I mentioned before, there's a lot more use of heat pumps and electric vehicles, but I've talked about those before. In terms of programs, back 20, 30 years ago, there was so much emphasis on lighting. The CFL was almost the silver bullet. We've had lots of silver BBs since then. It's lots of little pieces here and there. It's kind of, as Amory Lovins used to refer to, it's like eating lobster meat. You have to find a little morsel here and there. But we've really done it. There's been a refocus on market transformation. We realize if we're going to really hit these aggressive energy-saving goals, but not want to triple the expenditures and triple rates, we really needed to do it smarter. We couldn't do market transformation everywhere, but in appropriate places, such as with zero net energy buildings, efficient rooftop units, much more efficient personal computers. We really had these focus efforts over multiple years and really helped transform markets. So that's a real part of our success. We've emphasized efficiency improvements in distribution-constrained areas. You may recall back in 2015, 2016, there was a major focus on a project in Brooklyn, Queens. There's now projects happening all over the country on these distribution areas. Didn't solve all our problems, but roughly half of the distribution grids had needed major upgrades, and we were able to avert many of those through targeted energy efficiency. As the energy sales started declining, utilities got looking for new ventures. They've invested particularly heavily in combined heat and power in customer facilities. There's also been a lot of third-party vendors. So combined heat and power, community solar have really taken off, driven by third-party as well as utility unregulated investments. Industrial firms have really focused on continual improvement. ISO 50001 was developed, probably more than 20 years ago now. But there's a recent Arctic study showing that of the Fortune 500, 400, and I think it was 28 of those firms were now participating in ISO 50001. We still have a few left, but we've made enormous progress. And then we haven't forgotten the low-income, low-moderate income people. Many programs focused on how do we get solar, how do we weatherize those homes so that they are efficient too. So we've really made a lot of progress on the program front. And then in terms of policies, I'm showing here on the upper left a map that ACEEE put together back in 2016 on energy efficiency resource standards. And I'm trying to focus a little, oops, someone modified it. I was trying to zoom in on New England. But as you could see, there were a couple of states back in 2016 that didn't have energy efficiency resource standards. Very happy to say that New Hampshire adopted one late in 2016. Delaware was one of the other gaps. They finalized it. It took them a while, but they finally finalized it in 2017. And even New Jersey, after Chris Christie got termed out the next year, they quickly adopted one as well. So the entire NEEP region now has strong energy efficiency resource standards. Sue mentioned appliance standards. I've worked on those for many years. The middle top, you could see the progress on appliance standards. The red line was where we were in 2016. The dotted line is all the savings we've gotten since then from many of the new product standards, quite a few of them resulting from market transformation efforts that NEEP and other people around the country championed. Building codes have really transformed. The National Model Building Codes, the 2030 versions, all call for zero net energy in most applications. There are a few exceptions. And I know Vermont, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts have just adopted the Zero Net Energy Code, and I hope the rest of the states will shortly now that they're part of the National Model Code. Another big change, and it took quite a while, was a carbon tax. The US Congress enacted a carbon tax. I think it was in 2022. Right. On the lower right, you can see a graph. This is an old graph from Australia showing in the circle how carbon emissions from electricity declined right after they enacted a tax. They had a change in government, repealed it, and lo and behold, the emissions climbed again. Well, Australia flipped governments again, showed us how to do it. It worked very well, and took quite a few years of very divisive debate, but in 2022, we did get a carbon tax. It certainly has made a difference. At ACEEE, we're finding that it's saving maybe 1% a year of energy. We need all these other programs to complement that, but it's nice to have a little that carbon price at our back. I mentioned the duck curve and how we have a lot of power during the middle of the day, whereas we have a peak problem at night. All the utilities now have time of use rates, really to help people, encourage people to use it off-peak. I know I have a battery in my house. I imagine many of you do too, to help glide through that, call it 6 to 10 o'clock period, so we don't contribute to peak demand. All the cars now are smart charging. If you start coming home and plugging in at 6 o'clock, it's really going to be costly. But you can wait until 10 o'clock or so. It's much, much cheaper. And then finally, and here's an area where we still need to do some work, building retrofits, particularly home retrofits. I mentioned maybe 20% of the buildings had gone through deep retrofits. We need much more. But what we're doing there is actually based on a policy that France pioneered back in 2015. France had this A through G label for all the buildings. And what they said, they passed a law saying as of 2020, you could no longer sell or rent a G. Then in 2025, you could no longer sell or rent an F. And they've slowly been ramping it up so that now it has to be C or better, and in 2040, it'll be B or better. Well, the US learned from that. I think Massachusetts was the first. They enacted that policy in 2025. It's going to phase in over the next until 2050. But all the building owners now have noticed, okay, we need to reduce our energy use to this level by 2050, and they can plan as they're figuring out their renovations when they want to do it. So I hope other states will follow Massachusetts' example. So I'll just end there. So that's a brief whirlwind tour about what has happened over the last 15 years. I feel very good about all that we've accomplished. Certainly my generation helped contribute to the climate change problem, but I think we've done a bit of our bit to help make it better. A lot of work to do. As I said, I'll be retiring soon, but I think there's many people here. I'm really refreshed at all the people, all the college graduates in the 2020s are just so smart. I'm sure that they can carry it on. As we heard from Rob, the West Arctic ice sheet is melting. We really need to accelerate our efforts, but I think we're on a positive path, and I really look forward to coming back again in another 15 years. Yes, I'll be old. I'll need probably a little help. I won't be able to do the steps, and learning about all that you've accomplished over the following 15 years. So thank you very much. And I look forward to hearing your observations about what are the best accomplishments over the last 15 years. So thank you.